Lucille Ball's polka dot dresses became legendary, but few fans know why she wore them and how Desi Arnaz's real-life habits changed Ricky Ricardo's style on screen. Did you know some cast feuds nearly tore the show apart? Or that censors almost banned an episode over Lucy's pregnancy? Here are 20 scandals and secrets you never saw.
Oh, Ricky?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Jerry, your agent, remember? Yeah, I'm way over in Jersey. Listen, I signed up that dog act for
20. The network's initial hesitation and Desilu's daring gamble. So, here's the thing. When Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, through their production company Desilu Productions, first pitched I Love Lucy to CBS, the network wasn't exactly jumping for joy. In fact, they were pretty hesitant. Their main concern? Desi Arnaz's accent. They believed American audiences wouldn't accept a Cuban bandleader as the husband of an all-American redhead. This wasn't just a minor note, it was a significant roadblock. CBS suggested that Lucy should be paired with a more traditional American actor, but Lucy and Desi were adamant. They knew their chemistry, their dynamic, was the very heart of the show's appeal. They had already been touring with a vaudeville act that replicated their home life, and audiences loved it. They knew it would translate to the screen.
You daffy.
Hey, listen, I want to give you the dope on the dogs. And you have to get it to the publicity department this morning. But they'll never get it out on time.
Okay, Jerry, wait.
Desilu Productions made an unprecedented move. They decided to finance the pilot themselves. This was practically unheard of at the time. Usually, the network would front the cost. By funding it themselves, Lucy and Desi maintained creative control. And crucially, they owned the rights to the show's episodes. This was a revolutionary decision that would have massive ramifications for television production, shifting power dynamics from networks to production companies. They filmed the pilot, showed it to CBS, and the network, seeing the undeniable magic, finally relented. This gamble paid off in spades, but it reveals a fundamental tension right from the start about network control versus artistic vision, and a certain degree of ethnocentric bias that Lucy and Desi had to actively fight against. It shows their incredible belief in their project, and their refusal to compromise on the core premise that made the show so special. 19. Desi Arnaz's unsung role as a technical innovator. When people think of I Love Lucy, they often credit Lucille Ball's comedic genius and the fantastic writing. And rightly so. But what many don't realize is the monumental, almost revolutionary, technical contributions made by Desi Arnaz. He wasn't just a talented actor and musician, he was a visionary producer and a technical trailblazer. At the time, most live television was shot on kinescope, a process of filming a television monitor. The quality was notoriously poor, often dark, grainy, and inconsistent. Desi hated it. He knew that for a show of I Love Lucy's caliber, for something they wanted to last, they needed something better. He collaborated with cinematographer Karl Freund to develop a groundbreaking multi-camera setup. Instead of one camera, they used 3 film cameras simultaneously, arranged in a way that mimicked a live stage production. This allowed them to capture different angles and close-ups, providing a much richer, more cinematic experience. And here's the kicker. They shot on 35mm film, the same high-quality film stock used for movies. This was incredibly expensive and complex, but Desi insisted on it for the superior image quality. This decision meant that the show's reruns, unlike other shows of the era, looked fantastic for decades, ensuring its longevity and timeless appeal. He also pioneered the concept of the live studio audience, creating a more dynamic and energetic performance environment. Before I Love Lucy, most sitcoms were performed to a laugh track. Desi wanted real laughter. He even designed a special set that allowed for an audience to be seated comfortably while still enabling the multi-camera setup. His innovations became the standard for sitcom production, a legacy that continues to this day, making him one of television's most overlooked technical architects. 18. The paternity clause and network censors. One of the most widely known scandals, or at least significant hurdles, involved Lucy's real-life pregnancies. Lucille Ball became pregnant twice during the show's run. The first time, it happened early on, and the decision was made to conceal it with loose clothing, clever camera angles, and furniture. This was common practice in Hollywood at the time. But when she became pregnant a second time, it presented a much bigger problem. The show's writers, Jess Oppenheimer, Madeline Pugh, and Bob Carroll Jr., came up with a bold idea: write the pregnancy into the show. This was revolutionary. Never before had a pregnant woman been openly depicted on American television. The network, CBS, was absolutely terrified. They were concerned about the moral implications, the perception, and frankly, just the idea of showing a pregnant woman on screen. They mandated strict rules. The word pregnant itself was deemed too risque. Instead, they had to use euphemisms like expecting or with child. Furthermore, the network insisted that a priest, a minister, and a rabbi approve every single script that referenced Lucy's pregnancy to ensure it was handled with the utmost respect and propriety. This wasn't just a suggestion, it was a non-negotiable condition. It speaks volumes about the prudish sensibilities of the era and the power of network censors. The fact that Lucy and Desi pushed through this, and that the storyline became one of the most beloved arcs of the series, showing Lucy Ricardo having little Ricky, demonstrates their determination to make the show as real as possible within the confines of 1950s television. 17. The Vita Mita Vegamin scene, a battle of wills and exhaustion. The Vita Mita Vegamin episode, Lucy Does a TV Commercial, is arguably one of the most famous and hilarious episodes of I Love Lucy. Lucy's increasingly drunken attempts to sell the dubious tonic are comedic gold. But behind this iconic performance lies a story of exhaustion and a minor battle of wills. This scene required numerous takes. The physical comedy, the increasingly slurred lines, the precision needed to make it look authentically uncoordinated, all took a toll. Lucille Ball was known for her perfectionism and her dedication to getting a scene just right. But even she reached her limit. It's been reported by those on set that by the time they got to the later takes, Lucy was absolutely drained. She was tired, she was repeating the lines, and she was doing the physical bits over and over again. There were moments of frustration, not just from her, but from the crew and director, as they pushed to capture that perfect, spiraling performance. The set was tense, despite the humorous nature of the scene. The sheer number of takes needed to achieve that flawless, gradually deteriorating speech and physical state meant that everyone was working overtime. It's a testament to Lucy's incredible stamina and commitment that she kept going until they nailed it. The result is pure genius, but it came at the cost of immense effort and a very long day on set, showing the intense pressure and demands placed on the stars to deliver unforgettable performances. 16. William Frawley's drinking problem and Desi Arnaz's ultimatum. Who played the perpetually grumpy Fred Mertz, was a brilliant comedic actor. His deadpan delivery and curmudgeonly charm were essential to the show's dynamic. However, it was no secret in Hollywood that Frawley had a significant drinking problem. This wasn't just a rumor, it was something that caused considerable concern on set. Desi Arnaz, as the executive producer and line producer, was known for running a very tight ship. He was a savvy businessman and a perfectionist when it came to the production schedule and budget. Frawley's drinking sometimes caused him to be late, or occasionally not quite at his best during rehearsals or even filming. Desi, in an effort to keep the production running smoothly and to support Frawley, reportedly issued him an ultimatum. He told Frawley, in no uncertain terms, that if his drinking ever interfered with his performance or caused delays, he would be fired. This was a serious threat, and Desi wasn't known for making idle ones. Frawley, to his credit, managed to keep his drinking in check enough to never miss a performance or significantly disrupt the show's demanding production schedule. He was a professional, and he knew how important this role was. This behind-the-scenes tension highlights the strict professionalism required, and Desi's unwavering commitment to the quality and efficiency of Desilu Productions, even when dealing with the personal struggles of his cast members. 15. Vivian Vance's resentment of her character's appearance. Vivian Vance, who played the lovable, if somewhat plain, Ethel Mertz, was an incredibly talented actress and a crucial part of the show's success. Her comedic timing and chemistry with William Frawley were legendary. However, behind the scenes, Vance harbored a significant resentment about her character's appearance. The writers and producers deliberately made Ethel Mertz appear less glamorous than Lucy Ricardo. Ethel often wore frumpy clothes, had an unflattering hairstyle, and was frequently the butt of jokes about her age or weight. This was a deliberate choice to enhance Lucy's more glamorous and vivacious image. and to play into the neighborly contrast. But for Vivian Vance, a beautiful and stylish woman in real life, it was a constant source of frustration and, at times, humiliation. She reportedly expressed her unhappiness about being made to look old and dowdy. She understood it was for the character, but it affected her personally. She also chafed at some of the jokes about Ethel's weight or her singing ability, knowing that in real life, she was a fantastic singer and an elegant woman. This tension lingered throughout the show's run. While she remained professional, it was an emotional toll she bore for the sake of the character and the show's comedic dynamic, revealing the personal sacrifices actors sometimes make for their art. 14. The grape stomping scene, real bruises and real laughter. The Lucy's Italian movie episode, featuring the iconic grape stomping scene, is a masterclass in physical comedy. Lucy, attempting to immerse herself in Italian culture for a film role, gets into a wrestling match with another woman in a vat of grapes. The scene is chaotic, hilarious, and looks incredibly real. And that's because, in many ways, it was. Lucille Ball was not afraid of physical comedy, and she threw herself into it wholeheartedly. The woman Lucy was wrestling with in the vat was actually a local Italian woman who was a professional grape stomper, not an actress. There was a language barrier, and the instructions given to her were likely misunderstood or not fully comprehended. The director told her to be physical and fight with Lucy. The Italian woman, taking her role very seriously, got a little too into it. She started genuinely fighting Lucy, holding her underwater and wrestling her with real force. Lucy emerged from the vat with bruises and scrapes, truly having been in a physical altercation, while the crew quickly intervened to de-escalate the situation and explain to the woman to tone it down. The initial takes captured a truly authentic, albeit slightly dangerous, struggle. The raw energy and the genuine effort Lucy put in are palpable, making it one of the most memorable and genuinely physical comedy sequences in television history. But it also shows the risks involved in shooting such scenes. 13. The strict studio contract and the price of stardom. In the golden age of Hollywood, and even into early television, actors were often bound by strict studio contracts. While Desilu was their own company, Lucy and Desi still had to navigate the broader industry landscape. For other actors, like Vivian Vance and William Frawley, their contracts were less about ownership and more about obligation. These contracts dictated nearly every aspect of an actor's professional life, from the roles they could take to their public appearances and even their image. This meant that actors had limited agency. For instance, if Vivian Vance wanted to take on other roles that might showcase her elegance or singing talent, her commitments to I Love Lucy and her contract could restrict her. The salaries, while good for the time, were often fixed, and actors didn't always share in the immense syndication profits that would later materialize from their work. The power dynamic heavily favored the studios and production companies. While Lucy and Desi uniquely owned their show, other actors on the series were still subject to the prevailing system. This highlights a lesser discussed scandal of the era: the often exploitative nature of long-term contracts that gave studios immense control over talent, limiting their artistic freedom and financial leverage, even for beloved performers. 12. The Lucy Goes to the Hospital episode and its unintended historical impact. The episode where Lucy Ricardo gives birth to little Ricky, titled Lucy Goes to the Hospital, aired on the 19th of January 1953. This episode achieved an unprecedented feat. It garnered a massive audience of 44 million viewers. To put that into perspective, more people watched Lucy give birth on television than watched the inauguration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower the very next day. This was an astounding figure for the time and represented a major cultural moment. But here's the secret, or rather, the fascinating alignment. Lucille Ball's real-life cesarean section to deliver her son, Desi Arnaz Jr., was actually scheduled for the very same day the Lucy Goes to the Hospital episode was set to air. This incredible coincidence was entirely unplanned. The broadcast date had been set weeks in advance, and Lucy's delivery date, being a medical procedure, was determined by her doctors. The simultaneous events created an almost surreal blurring of reality and fiction, amplifying the public's fascination and engagement with the show. It catapulted I Love Lucy into an even higher echelon of cultural significance, making headlines across the nation and forever linking the fictional birth of little Ricky with the real birth of Desi Jr. It wasn't a scandal, but an incredible, almost magical confluence of events that became part of the show's legend. 11. The network's fear of showing a married couple in the same bed. It's almost quaint by today's standards. But for much of early television, showing a married couple in the same bed was considered too risque. Even in I Love Lucy, a show that pushed boundaries in many other ways, the Ricardos famously slept in separate twin beds. This wasn't a creative choice by Lucy and Desi. It was a non-negotiable directive from network censors. The prevailing moral standards of the 1,950 seconds dictated that even the implication of a married couple sharing a bed was deemed too suggestive for family viewing. It was an unspoken rule that was strictly enforced. This scandal isn't about something that happened, but rather something that didn't happen because of strict moral policing. It highlights the pervasive, puritanical attitudes of the era and the intense scrutiny television content was under. Despite the Ricardos being a clearly devoted and affectionate couple, the visual representation of their marital intimacy was completely sanitized, a stark reminder of how much television has evolved in its portrayal of relationships and intimacy. This single detail, the twin beds, became an iconic visual shorthand for the innocence and conservative nature of 1950s television. 10. Lucy and Desi's troubled real-life marriage. While the Ricardos portrayed a loving, if tumultuous, marriage on screen, the real-life marriage of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz was far more complex and ultimately tragic. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but off-screen, their relationship was plagued by Desi's infidelity and alcohol abuse. These issues were not minor. They were significant, persistent problems that caused immense pain and stress for Lucy. Desi was a charismatic and charming man, but his lifestyle often involved late nights, heavy drinking, and affairs, while he was on the road with his band. Even after I Love Lucy started, Lucy, deeply in love with him, was devastated by his behavior. She tried desperately to make the marriage work, hoping that their success with Desilu and the stability of family life would curb his destructive habits. But the problems persisted. This private turmoil was a stark contrast to the idyllic, albeit comedic, family life portrayed on the show. The public was largely unaware of the extent of their marital woes during the show's original run, preserving the fantasy. Their eventual divorce in 1960s, shortly after the end of the Lucy-Desi comedy hour, sent shockwaves through Hollywood and deeply saddened fans who had idolized their on-screen partnership. It's a classic case of the glittering facade of Hollywood hiding a deeply fractured reality. 9. The infamous blacklisting scare and Lucy's communist ties. This is one of the most serious scandals that nearly derailed Lucille Ball's career. In 1953, at the height of the McCarthy era and the Red Scare, Lucille Ball was investigated by the House Un-American Activities Committee. The accusation was that she had registered to vote as a communist in 1936. This was a potentially career-ending allegation at a time when Hollywood was gripped by fear of blacklisting. The truth of the matter was far less sinister. In 1936, at the urging of her socialist grandfather, Fred Hunt, Lucy had indeed registered to vote as a communist. However, she never actively participated in the party, and it was largely a symbolic gesture to please her beloved grandfather. When the allegations resurfaced in 1953, it caused a massive panic. Desi Arnaz, ever the protector, took swift action. He made a heartfelt and powerful speech to the I Love Lucy studio audience before a taping, explaining the situation and vehemently defending his wife. He joked, "The only thing red about Lucy is her hair, and that's not even real." He reassured the audience that Lucy was a true American patriot. The audience gave her a standing ovation, and public opinion quickly rallied behind her. The investigation was eventually dropped, and Lucy was cleared. But for a terrifying period, her career, and by extension Desilu Productions, hung precariously in the balance due to a youthful, innocent political gesture twisted by the paranoia of the times. It serves as a chilling reminder of the destructive power of blacklisting and political witch hunts. 8. Desi Arnaz's management style. Brilliant, but ruthless. Desi Arnaz was an undeniable genius. He was not only a gifted performer, but also an incredibly shrewd businessman and an organizational whiz. He co-founded Desilu Productions with Lucy, and he was the driving force behind its operations, turning it into a television empire. He pioneered many production techniques, managed finances meticulously, and built Desilu into a powerhouse. However, his management style, while effective, could also be described as ruthless and demanding. Desi ran the studio with military precision. He was known for being incredibly strict about schedules, budgets, and efficiency. While this led to Desilu's unparalleled success, it also meant he wasn't afraid to make tough decisions, sometimes alienating staff or cast members. He could be charming, but also had a formidable temper and a no-nonsense approach when it came to business. Stories from employees and associates often describe a man who was brilliant, but also intensely focused and sometimes intimidating. He expected absolute professionalism and dedication, reflecting his own work ethic. This intense leadership, while crucial for building one of Hollywood's largest independent studios, also contributed to a high-pressure environment behind the scenes, a testament to the demanding nature of running such a massive enterprise. 7. The Indian episode and cultural insensitivity. I Love Lucy was a product of its time, and while groundbreaking in many ways, it also reflected some of the cultural blind spots and prevalent insensitivities of the era. One episode that stands out for its problematic nature is the Amateur Hour, where Lucy and Ricky perform a Native American act. Lucy dons a headdress and war paint, and they perform a stereotypical Indian dance. Looking back through a modern lens, this portrayal is deeply problematic and culturally insensitive. It relies on caricatures and stereotypes of Native American people, reducing complex cultures to simplistic, often demeaning, comedic tropes. At the time, such portrayals were unfortunately common in entertainment and were rarely questioned. However, in today's context, it serves as a stark reminder of how far our understanding of cultural representation and respect has evolved. While not a scandal in the sense of a public outcry at the time, it's a secret in the sense that many viewers might overlook or not fully grasp the offensive nature of such a depiction unless viewed with a contemporary critical eye. It's a reminder that even beloved classics can contain elements that are uncomfortable and revealing of past biases. 6. The financial empire that Desilu became and its unforeseen fallout. Desilu Productions, under Desi Arnaz's brilliant financial management, became an unprecedented success. Not only did they own I Love Lucy, but they also produced other hit shows and operated a massive studio, eventually buying out RKO Studios. Desi's deal with CBS to own the I Love Lucy negatives was a stroke of genius, making Desilu incredibly wealthy through syndication rights. This financial prowess was a secret to many viewers who only saw the on-screen antics. However, this immense financial success also contributed to the strain on Lucy and Desi's marriage. Desi was constantly working, managing the burgeoning empire, which meant long hours, frequent travel, and immense pressure. Lucy, while a partner in the business, was primarily the star, and she often felt neglected and isolated as Desi poured more and more of his energy into the studio. The demands of running Desilu on such a grand scale, combined with Desi's personal struggles, ultimately overwhelmed their relationship. The empire they built together became, in a way, another wedge between them. It's a paradox. Their professional triumph contributed to their personal downfall, revealing that even immense success comes with its own unique set of pressures and challenges. 5. The constant battle with the WGA and writers' credits. Behind every great show are great writers, and I Love Lucy had some of the best. Jess Oppenheimer, Madeline Pugh, and Bob Carroll Jr. They crafted brilliant scripts and were instrumental in developing the show's comedic voice. However, like many shows of its era, there were underlying tensions and ongoing scandals regarding writers' credits and the Writers Guild of America. At the time, the WGA was still relatively young and fighting for stronger protections and recognition for writers. Desilu, like many production companies, often had its own ways of crediting writers, and sometimes there were disputes over who deserved what credit, especially when ideas were collaborative or evolved in the writer's room. While Oppenheimer, Pugh, and Carroll are famously credited, the overall environment of television production in the 1,950 seconds involved a constant push and pull between writers and producers over fair compensation, residuals, and proper attribution. Desi Arnaz, as a producer, was focused on getting the best product efficiently, and sometimes this meant navigating the sometimes contentious landscape of labor relations in Hollywood. This backstage battle, largely unseen by the public, highlights the ongoing struggle for artists to gain fair recognition and compensation for their creative contributions, a struggle that continues in Hollywood to this day. 4. The departure of Jess Oppenheimer. A creative clash. Jess Oppenheimer was a crucial figure in the creation and early success of I Love Lucy. He served as the head writer and producer for the first 5 seasons, and was instrumental in shaping the show's format, character development, and comedic sensibilities. His wit and vision were integral to the show's iconic status. However, he eventually left the show, and his departure was shrouded in some behind-the-scenes friction. While the official line was often about creative differences or a desire to move on, there were underlying tensions. Oppenheimer, as the creative engine, often clashed with Desi Arnaz, who, as the executive producer, was focused on the business and practical aspects of production. Desi was also very much in charge, and there could only be one ultimate authority. As the show progressed and Desilu expanded, the demands on Oppenheimer grew, and the creative environment became more pressured. It's reported that he felt his creative input was sometimes overshadowed or overruled by Desi, leading to a feeling of creative exhaustion and a desire for more autonomy. His departure marked a significant shift in the show's creative leadership, and while the show continued to be successful, it underscored the challenges of maintaining a creative vision within a rapidly expanding and demanding production environment. It wasn't a public scandal, but a significant creative divorce with roots in power dynamics and artistic control. 3. The stress of live television and near mishaps. Although I Love Lucy was shot on film, it was performed in front of a live studio audience, and essentially, it was filmed as if it were a live stage play. This meant that the pressure to get everything right in real time was immense. There were very few opportunities for retakes, and continuity errors or flubbed lines could be glaring. This intense pressure led to numerous near mishaps and moments of high stress that the audience never saw. Actors occasionally forgot lines, props malfunctioned, or sets had minor issues during takes. The quick thinking of the cast and crew was often what saved a scene. Lucille Ball herself was a master of improvisation, and could often salvage a moment with a clever ad-lib or a perfectly timed reaction. Desi Arnaz, as the director and producer, had to maintain incredible focus and react quickly to any potential problems. These were not always scandals, but rather constant challenges inherent in their innovative production method. The relentless schedule, the demand for perfection, and the ever-present live audience created an environment where stress levels were consistently high. It's a secret, because the polished final product rarely betrayed the frantic energy and occasional moments of panic that went into creating it. It showcases the incredible professionalism and resilience of the entire team. 2. The lingering resentment between Vivian Vance and William Frawley. While Ethel and Fred Mertz were a beloved comedic duo on screen, the actors who played them, Vivian Vance and William Frawley, notoriously did not get along in real life. Their on-screen bickering was a source of endless laughs, but off-screen, a genuine animosity often simmered. This was one of the most open secrets on the set. Part of the tension stemmed from their age difference. Frawley, at 64 when the show began, was much older than Vance, who was 41. He often made jokes about her age or weight, which she resented. Vance reportedly found Frawley's personality difficult, and his sometimes gruff demeanor tiresome. She also reportedly felt that he wasn't a very good singer, despite his character Fred Mertz often singing. Frawley, in turn, often found Vance to be too serious or overly concerned with her appearance. Their dislike was palpable to the cast and crew, and it fueled some of their on-screen performances, adding an authentic edge to their arguments. While they were both consummate professionals and never let their personal feelings overtly disrupt filming, the underlying tension was a constant presence. It's a fascinating example of how real-life dynamics can both contribute to and complicate on-screen chemistry, a secret that gives another layer to the beloved Mertz couple. 1. Lucille Ball's unwavering perfectionism and demands on herself and others. At the very heart of I Love Lucy's enduring success, and arguably the source of many of its behind-the-scenes secrets and scandals, was Lucille Ball's intense, almost obsessive, perfectionism. Lucy was a comedic genius, but she was also a relentless taskmaster, especially when it came to her own performance and the quality of the show. She demanded nothing less than perfection from herself and everyone around her. This perfectionism manifested in many ways. She would rehearse endlessly, sometimes to the point of exhaustion for herself and others. She would meticulously analyze every gesture, every facial expression, every line delivery to ensure it landed just right. She wasn't afraid to stop a scene, or even an entire production, if she felt something wasn't working. This drive for excellence was often seen as demanding, and it certainly put immense pressure on her co-stars, writers, and crew. There are countless stories of Lucy pushing for more takes, refining a bit, or insisting on a particular nuance until it was absolutely flawless. This wasn't always easy for those working with her. It could be draining and frustrating. However, it was precisely this unwavering commitment to comedic brilliance that elevated I Love Lucy from a good sitcom to a timeless masterpiece. Her scandal, if you can call it that, was her relentless pursuit of comedic truth and perfection, a drive that simultaneously made the show legendary and created a high-stakes, demanding environment for everyone involved. It's the ultimate secret. The genius that drove the show also drove its complex, sometimes challenging, behind-the-scenes reality. And there you have it, 20 scandals and secrets that give us a deeper, more nuanced look into the making of I Love Lucy. This show was more than just a sitcom. It was a pioneering force in television, built on immense talent, innovative thinking, fierce determination, and a healthy dose of behind-the-scenes drama. The laughter on screen was often a testament to the incredible efforts and personal sacrifices made when the cameras weren't rolling.